Here to help dive into the implications of an Iran-Turkey alliance is Dr. Martin Sherman, the founder and executive director of the Israel Institute for Strategic Studies. Thank you very much for joining me, Dr. Sherman, again. So to begin, I want to ask you, so apparently we're hearing that Israel, among other states, are going to give their support for a Kurdish national homeland. Now, what would be the benefits to having a Kurdish state there, and why, what else needs to happen for that to be accomplished?
Well, I think clearly the Kurdish issue is the glue now that's bringing Iran and Turkey together. So one of the things that you'd have to have for such a state to be established is to somehow reduce Iranian and Turkish opposition to it, and I wouldn't hold my breath until that happens. But I think beyond that, what you're seeing with this so-called or seeming rapprochement between Iran and Turkey is a dramatic illustration of the fickleness of international politics and the relationship between nations. Well, it was about 150 years ago. Lord Palmerston, the British Foreign Secretary, described it as we have no eternal allies and no perpetual enemies. It's our interests that are eternal and perpetual, and those interests we have to follow. What does that mean? That means you can never really count on any existing configuration of relationship between states, because a shift in conditions can shift interests and then shift alliances. And I think what you're seeing now with Iran and Turkey is remarkable, because they've been very hostile to each other even recently. They backed different sides in the Syrian civil war. They're basically divided by the Sunni-Shia divide, and all of a sudden, because of a particular prospect of a Kurdish state, they are forming an alliance, which in many ways is very ominous for Israel.
So, well, not just ominous for Israel, I mean, considering that you have Iran making alliances with any of our regional neighbors, but with respect, again, to the Kurdish state, if Iran and Turkey are coming together over this Kurdish issue, does it hurt the possibility of solving the Syrian civil war? Is this diverting attention and energy?
In certain aspects, of course, yes, because one of the major forces fighting at least one element in the Syrian war, ISIS, are the Kurds. The Kurds have been a very effective force in dealing with ISIS, and so suddenly now you would have Turkey and Iran trying to neutralize the Kurds. I'm sorry. This may
exacerbate the ISIS issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so my final question, because unfortunately we're running out of time, but how would the Turkey-Iran alliance specifically affect the situation and Israel? And what it seems to me, though, is that this would also kind of maybe open the door to more cooperation with Israel and the Gulf states and some of the other Arab states.
Well, perhaps, but I think the real worry is if this Turkish and Iranian alliance gives Iran more freedom of movement in Syria, because what you're seeing now is a gradual takeover of Syria by Iran, which I think has a very important message for Israel down the line. Because it wasn't long ago that people were talking about giving up the Golan. And you can just imagine how disturbing it would be if you had given up the Golan and you had Iranian troops overlooking the Kinneret. So I think in general, if this goes further down the line and the cooperation between Turkey and Iran strengthens, I think it's a very disturbing situation for Israel and an important lesson for Israel, that you cannot take a current set of international relations as the basis for long-term strategic planning.
All right, well, I hope that we figure out what we're going to do real soon. Thank you very much, Dr. Martin Sherman.
Thank you.